These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. I got my first trail camera when I was 10 years old. It took 8 D-cell batteries and had a roll of film, and I set it up on a dead cow to see what would come in on it. I was so excited to take that roll of film to town, get them developed, and when I got my photos back, it was mostly just blurry photos of ravens and magpies, but in one of them, in the dark, I could see all these eyes circling this cow off in the distance, just glowing in this big bright flash of this giant, awkward camera. But I was so excited by that I just knew that I'd be running game cameras forever. And they've changed so much since then. The best of the cameras now are made by Tacticam. So these reveal cell cameras will work in places that have basically no cell service at all. So I can get cell service on the camera when I can't get it on my phone. They have live view. They've got active GPS. So if a bear packs my camera off, I can find it again. Or if I forget about it, definitely have done that. I can change all of the features through the app on my phone. The photos and videos just get sent to me. And ultimately, this makes me a better hunting guide because I can monitor a really wide area without going in there and disturbing the wildlife in that area, right? I'm just getting the intel back and making decisions based off of what I'm seeing on those cameras. If you want to learn more about Reveal, go to www.tacticam.com and check out their newest camera. That's the Ultra. That's the one that I'm using right now. And it's, simply put, the easiest and best trail camera that I've ever used. So go check it out. Do you remember your first football game?
First one I played in?
Ever?
Yeah, I was in high school.
Really? You didn't start until high school?
Yeah, my pop wouldn't let me play until he was a baseball man. He wanted me playing baseball. And, he just thought that football was too violent,
Sure.
I mean, I can remember the very first thing he said to me when I asked him if it would be okay if I played. He said, no. He said, I don't want you to play that game because they'll take your legs.
Huh.
And it was a bit of a prophet.
Yeah.
So, I had my mom forge his signature on the parental consent card. And she showed up with him at my first football game. I threw 4 touchdown passes and I made 14 tackles, and and the rest was kind of history after that. He said, "This football, maybe you're cut out for it." So,
that's awesome. What did you play on defense?
I played middle linebacker.
Hell yeah. That's a good place to be.
I enjoyed that more than quarterback, to be honest with you.
Really?
I love the contact.
Yeah. Middle linebackers. Fun. I mean, you get to move around a lot, and it's kind of a thinking man's position.
Yeah, no question about it. And if you got a couple good guys in front of you that can keep those guards or centers, from getting off on you, I mean, you can wreak some havoc, no doubt about it. There's been some great ones down through the years.
So was that your freshman year?
Freshman year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, playing junior varsity.
Yeah. And then how did things progress from there?
Well, I always considered myself a baseball player. I kind of used football to get in shape for basketball, and then basketball, would lead into baseball. So, it was kind of a round-the-clock deal for me. Frankly, if it wasn't for athletics, I would have had no interest in school.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people I went to sports and played school,
Right.
instead of the other way around.
A lot of kids are in that boat.
Yeah, I just love the game. I love the competition. I love to compete. There's every aspect of it, kind of got my blood boiling. And I knew I wanted to be an athlete. When I was 6 years old, I told my dad I want to be a ball player, and I didn't have any idea it would work out like that. But, sure enough, it was kind of the mission of my life, and had a choice really of baseball or football, coming out of college.
Okay. When you're talking about that competitiveness, were you more so interested in competing against yourself or against other people?
Both. I think that's that's the beauty of athletics. I mean, there's always everybody wants to reach what their ceiling is. You want to take the God-given gifts that you've got and try to maximize them and try to make the most of it. But I also love when the game was on the line. I mean, when you're up and it's you against a pitcher and you got a chance to drive in the winning run, or if you got 2 minutes to go in the football game, to go the length of the field and make the score that determines the game. I mean, if that doesn't get your juices flowing, then you probably ought to go do something else. That's what I liked about it. I mean, because you're always competing with yourself. You're always trying to get better. You're always trying to give the very best you have. And when you don't, you do some self-analysis and you say, what kept me from making that play? What kept me from getting that hit? So it's a constant iron sharpening iron. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to get. I got to get better. I got to make sure that I drive in that run next time. I got to make sure that pass gets to the guy open in the end zone.
Do you have any regrets about taking the football route instead of baseball?
Oh yeah, daily.
Daily.
I do to this day. I'm still a baseball guy. I mean, I I follow the Braves and sort of live and die with them. But it was a choice that I made. And at that point in time, when I was coming out of college, it was baseball was the lesser pan of the two sports. That changed rather rapidly as I got into the game. I can remember being in the hospital getting my left elbow operated on when Andy Messersmith, who was a pitcher for the Dodgers, he was a guy. He played a couple years in Atlanta, and all of a sudden that free agency hit baseball, and it just went nuts. So we were in the hospital at the same time. He's getting his right arm operated on. I have to have my left arm operated on. And I went down and visited with him, and he said, "I think you've made a huge mistake. Playing football, baseball, it's going to bust loose here." And sure enough, it's very prophetic on his part, talking about how the game is just going to change and, it's going to become a lucrative game.
Yeah. So is the money the side of it that you look back on and feel like you missed out on something there? Or is it about like the physical damage to yourself that you incurred in football that you have to deal with today?
The damage could have come at any time. I mean, it could have come in football, could have come in baseball, could have come anywhere. In a car wreck. But the thing that I loved the most about baseball was there was an individual characteristic of the game. If you did the best that you could possibly do in the situation you're in, making the plays where moving the runner around, getting them in a scoring position. Baseball, that has an individual aspect of it that you don't have to count on your team to do the best that you can do. Football, on the other hand, is the ultimate team game. And if you don't have the people around you, you don't have the time in the pocket to make the decisions you need to make. You don't have the guys who can run routes to get open. You don't have the supporting cast. You just can't do it by yourself. I was the first pick in the draft in 1975. I went to a team that was not very good.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way the draft works. So I love the individual. Nobody could take me away from that. Me and the pitcher going one-on-one. You could take me out of the game if you found a way to get in my business. As I'm dropping back, it's going to make me throw the ball quicker than I want to throw it.
Yeah.
Probably throw it places that I didn't want to throw it, trying to get rid of it. So that aspect of it, I think, is what I like the most about baseball over football.
Well, let's firm up the timeline a little bit more. So you're this dual sport athlete. You're a senior in high school. Were you getting calls from colleges?
Oh yeah, I had virtually over 100 schools that wanted me to come and
that had to be overwhelming as a 17, 18-year-old kid.
It was. They started coming early. In my junior year in high school.
Your junior year.
Yeah, I was a really a pretty good basketball player as well too. I mean, the very first letter I got was from Lefty Driesell, in Maryland. I think he was at Dartmouth at the time, for a basketball scholarship, and of course I wanted to maximize whatever I could do, and it's hard to play two sports in college, because of the separation, football runs right into basketball runs right into baseball. So I knew baseball was going to be my sort of agenda. And I wanted to play both sports. When I went to Cal, when I decided to go to University of California, I made it mandatory. I said, look, I won't be at spring practice. And I made a deal with them. I said, look, I'm a baseball player too. And so it was important for me to sort of delineate that, as I was deciding where I was going to go play. I didn't want them dictating to me, wait a minute, you need to be at spring practice, that sort of thing.
What did you study?
Pretty much kind of going, I went at it sort of a mishmash my first couple of years, and I ended up kind of settling on sociology and psychology, and I was kind of, right in there, just kind of had a foot in both lanes, and never really, I didn't graduate, but had I graduated, it would have been in sociology, yeah.
Did those studies inform the way you played the game?
Not too much, I mean, there were aspects of it, that you could plug into, I mean, when you're learning to deal with, a group of teammates, I mean, you want to know what makes them click too, and, sociology kind of gives you some insight into some of the humanistic, ideals and, the things that make people go and and the things that, that cause them to, give you their best, Yeah. I mean, you got to sort of be a counselor, when you're a quarterback, I mean, you got to figure out what it is that drives the bus for the guys that you're playing with, I mean, you want them to be successful.
And it's a leadership role.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a way to make them successful. There's a way to do some things blocking scheme wise. If they got a guy they're overmatched, you want to try to get, there's some help from one of the running backs before he runs his route, give a little chuck on the way out, it just gives them, and I think learning what it is, some guys need a kick in the butt and some guys need a pat on the back, and you just got to figure out, which one's which, not easy, I mean, it's the locker room's like a huge chemistry experiment, I mean, there's so many different personalities, so many different,
a lot of type A personalities.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. But there's some guys that want to be led too, there's some guys that, and they're looking for leaders. There's so many more guys that want to be led than are leaders, some don't really want to lead, they don't want that role. I relished it. I thought it was great. I wanted guys looking at me, when the game was on the line, I wanted that rush that you get, when it's up to you to get it done,
I went to an event in South Carolina this winter called Winter Strong, and it's hosted by Bert Soren, who owns Soren X, large gym equipment company. They provide gym equipment to most of the universities, I think, in the country, the UFC, lots of professional sports teams. Bert and his dad both come from the powerlifting community. And at this Winter Strong event, there's kind of three demographics there. There's professional hunters. There are strength athletes and strength coaches and special forces.
Oh,
so
interesting collection.
you want to talk about some type A personalities, right? Everybody there is accomplished in a pretty serious discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think, looking from the outside in, that there's an opportunity for this to go pretty wrong, but it didn't at all. Everybody was really generous with their knowledge and humble about their approach to life.
Yeah,
it was super cool to see, and it was honestly life-changing for me just kind of be around people that were at that high performance level. And
yeah.
I'm a big believer that you are the sum total of the people that you spend your time around.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can spend time around people who are really incredible top performers, your own performance is going to go up as a product of that. And I'm sure that you saw that both exist and break down at various times.
Yeah, no doubt. There's and in that sort of an environment you were in, I mean, there's an automatic mutual respect that you sort of glean, from being a part of that group. And, it's a high bar. I mean, it's a high bar. There's not a whole lot of people that, can say I've been there and done that.
Right.
There's a lot of people that you get a lot of people who think that they want to do it until they start to consider the price. What it costs them to get there. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of guys, the Navy SEALs, Army Ranger guys, and made friends and buddies of these guys, and I get it, and I know, man, that those guys are the real deal. They've counted the cost. They're willing to pay the price. And, the ultimate price. I mean, a sporting event is the game's over. Nobody really cares at the end of the day, so they keep stats and they'll tell you who won or lost. But, man, when you're out there and you're carrying the flag or representing the country, man, and these guys are willing to just, give to the uttermost, I mean, they give it all.
Yeah.
And put it out there on the line, man. That's a different breed of human being right there.
It is. You know what something that Army Rangers and Navy SEALs all have in common is they've all got a story about how they wanted to join the Marine Corps. It's
yeah.
true.
Yeah. Is
yeah.
that
Ask
true?
them.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Very fun for me. Talk me through the 1975 draft. I think regardless of whether you're a sports fan or not, you're aware of the draft and all of the kind of hoopla that's around it today.
Yeah.
And it's wildly televised and every other thing. What was it like 50 years ago?
Yeah. Wow. 50 years ago. That's a long time. It was, I was the one guy in New York. I knew the Thursday before the Tuesday, I believe it was a Tuesday draft. The Falcons had called me, and they had third pick in the draft. They traded their best offensive lineman to get to, with Baltimore, to get to that number one slot. And, they told me they were going to pick me. So I was in New York City at what was the name of the hotel? But anyway, it was with Pete Rozelle, myself, and there were like 5 reporters in the room, maybe.
Really?
That was it.
Sure.
And it was
some crusty old guys smoking cigarettes, probably, writing stuff down in a notepad.
Yeah. It was AP, UPI guys, and that was about it. And I had to borrow a tie. I didn't own one. I had to buy a sport coat. Didn't have one.
Yeah.
And I had a tie that came in about right here, about mid-chest. And so, I mean, it was so – it makes me laugh today. They make a month-long presentation of the draft nowadays,
Sure.
and then now taking it on the road like they are. And, it's fun to see the game grow. And, I love how it's evolved. And and I love the fact that guys are getting paid now to play that game. I mean, they're getting paid handsomely, and I think it's great. But yeah, it's quite an experience, the whole NFL draft now.
So when you hear as a quarterback that you're going to a team that just traded its best offensive lineman, that doesn't sound like good news.
No, but you figure he must have been expendable for one reason or another.
Okay.
I knew that Baltimore, they had Burt Jones. They really didn't need me. They had Randy White. Roger Staubach, and then Danny White. They had Danny White, so they didn't really need a quarterback. So, I mean, it was just a matter of, moving some pieces around for Atlanta to get that pick. But, yeah, George Kuntz was a great offensive lineman. He had a great career and probably should be in the Hall of Fame. He's one of those guys that didn't play for very good organizations and, never got the accolades, but he could play. And George, I've never met George. I've kept thinking that maybe I'd run across him. I think he lives in Las Vegas now at this point in time, but just a great football player, and sorry to see him go. You know, in retrospect, I would have gladly given whoever they had in his place. I would have traded him for my offensive tackle that I had at Cal. you know, I mean, it was that big a difference.
Yeah. Who on the team did you have the most dependence on that first team?
On the very, very first team?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I didn't know. I was in a very sophisticated pass offense when I was at Cal. I mean, I was under a guy named Mike White, who was sort of a revolutionary. I mean, a guy that really knew the passing game. Student of Bill Walsh, and knew a lot about the West Coast offense. And I thought, you know, we had a dynamic scheme, and not so much when I got there. You know,
really?
I mean,
yeah.
I was we had some really good players on the team, but you know, it had a ways to go. The guy that I leaned on the most was Tommy Nobis. Tommy, who, I mean, by everybody's estimation, watching him play, was the best linebacker in the National Football League during his career. You know, I can remember having a conversation with Dick Butkus as I was doing an outdoor show in my post-playing career. I had a little outdoor show, and
yeah, we'll get into that for sure.
Yeah, I had Dick on, and I asked him. I said, you know, why is Tommy Nobis not in the Hall of Fame? You know, I mean, he said. I asked him, I said, how does it feel to be the greatest linebacker or considered the greatest linebacker to ever play in the National Football League? And he kind of shook his head and said, I wasn't the greatest like that. And I said, what do you mean? You know, I mean, he said, you know who the greatest was? And I said, Tommy Nobis, right? And he said, best I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, it saddens me that Tommy didn't play for a great organization and didn't have the kind of support, you know, to really you know, get that nod, you know, and be in the Hall of Fame and where he deserves to be, in my estimation. And pretty much everybody who had watched him play, you know, they know how good he was.
In your first years in the NFL, how much money were you making?
Not much.
Yeah.
You know, I signed the richest rookie contract that ever been signed in the National Football League. It beat Joe Namath's contract. Joe had, I think his was like for 4 years and $440,000. Mine was $605,000 for 4 years. So, you know, I thought, man, I'd hit the lottery. I mean, this is, I mean, my dad never made over, you know, $15,000 a year, you know. And,
sure.
You know, here I was, man, set for life, you know, at least I thought.
Yeah. Well, sure. And that's still a lot of money in 1975 and young guy. I mean,
not in relation to what they're paying now.
No,
I mean, but you know, people say, well, yeah, inflation, you know, but you can't make those numbers work, you know.
No, it's incomparable. But
right.
I guess compared to, you know, how you grew up and stuff like that, and what other people your age were making in their professions, like you'd have to be an attorney or a doctor or something like that to see similar money.
Absolutely. I mean, the money was fine. I didn't have much growing up. You know, I mean, I had the best baseball glove and I had the best cleats. You know, I mean, that my mom and dad made sure I had that. You know, even if they had to lay it away at Easter and give it to me at Christmas. You know. Yeah. So, I mean, they were always kind of self-sacrificing, you know, on my behalf, you know, for my sports. You know, I always had the Chuck Taylor Converse, you know, basketball shoes. And so, you know, but, it was great. I love the way I grew up. My dad was a baseball player and, you know, I mean, he dropped out of high school when he was a sophomore, signed a contract, youngest of 11 kids. He had 5 boys and 5 girls in the family, and you know, he dropped out and he signed a contract so he could send some money home to mom and dad who were here from the old country. They came over from Poland, settled in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And, you know, my dad took, you know, $75 or $100 out of his, you know, $200 that he'd get a month and sent it home, you know. So that's the kind of guy he was, you know. He's just kind of just a super-duper athlete himself, you know, just played in a very backed-up organization with the Cubs. You know, he just never got a call to the big leagues, you know, and he probably should have. Played 9 years of AAA baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, That's a lot of pressure for you as a young fella. Like, you're getting this paycheck like you've never seen before. You've got the spotlight on you. It's a lot of pressure to be in a leadership role and be a young guy on the team. How did you manage all that and kind of keep your head straight and stay out of trouble?
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't. No, frankly, I didn't. I wasn't. I never got hurt in high school. I sprained an ankle in basketball, but that was about it. My first year, I dislocated my left elbow. It came out like 4 times during the season, and I played it with a big, huge, cumbersome brace on my left elbow, my non-throwing arm. But it just was one of those one of those deals. I missed 4 games in the middle of the season. And then came back and played, but I still made Rookie of the Year, and I was picked to play in the Pro Bowl, and I couldn't go because I'm having elbow surgery. But I thought, we're off and running. I paid my dues now. I'm got the elbow injury. I'm getting over it, and then I tore my knee up in the 5th game of my second season. I got down in New Orleans. Guy grabbed me by the face mask on a pass rush, whirled me around, and another guy hit me, and I had a total knee operation.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was the 5th game. I missed the rest, the other 9 games that year, and came out and hurt the same knee after rehabbing, very vigorously during the off season. I came back and my knee popped again, and they had to go in and clean it up. Had more cartilage damage in there than this time around. I had no ACL. It was before they were doing all the fancy procedures now they are to put you back together. So it was just sports medicine's changed so much over the last 25 years. It's just crazy. It keeps on evolving.
And the money that goes into professional athletics helps drive that advancement, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, because truthfully, trainer told me this one time. My first 3 years, I only played about half the games, due to injury. And he came in, caught me in the training room one day, and he said, "Hey Bart," he said, "I got to tell you, man, in this league, they don't pay you for your ability; they pay you for your availability." And I got to thinking about that, and it's really right. You can't make the club in the tub, as they used to say, and you got to be available. And fortunately, 1978 was a very sort of a renaissance for me. I just got to the bottom, and lost my job. Replaced by my best friend on the team. He took my job, and just failed miserably in front of God and everybody else.
Yeah.
And I just we had a group of guys on the team that called themselves Christians. I didn't know what that was. I thought everybody was kind of a Christian who were born in America. That sort of thing. And but anyway, I got to looking at their lives, and they were the best players on the team, and they had the happiest families on the team, and they just wanted to kind of be like them, So after I got sat down, I got knocked off my high horse, that night coming home from the stadium, God brought back an incident that had happened 4 years earlier. I was at the college all-star game in Chicago. We were preparing to play the game that used to kick off the season. A group of consensus All-Americans got together and play against the previous year's world champions. So we're playing, practicing and getting ready to go against the Steelers. And the guy came up to me in the lobby of the hotel, shared with me that, what he called God's plan for my life, and he went through the gospel and told me about Jesus and, all these other things. And then he looked at me and he said, "Have you ever heard of Jesus?" And I said, "Oh, man, I've been in church since I was just a little grunion,
Yeah.
Of course I've heard about him." He said, "Well, there's more to it than just that, Steve." He said, you got to really you got to believe that he came for you and that, he gave his life for you so that you could experience, the best that he's got for you in this life. And it didn't make much sense to me. I was thinking this guy might be the most ignorant man in America. He doesn't know that I've just signed the richest rookie contract, and my goals are still ahead of me, and I've got I'm on the way, but 4 years later, that was, like I said, knocked off my high horse, and that incident came back to my recollection on the way home from the stadium that night. And I just, I got home and I said, God, if there's any truth to this, I need to know it, and I need to have it in my life. And so anyway, I just got up, and, the Bible says you became that experience makes you a new creation. You become a new person. And it gave me a new motivation, gave me a new desire. I wanted to be everything that I could be for the sake of being able to tell other people about what had happened to me. I was lost, but now I'm found, and I was dead, but now I'm alive, and all glory to God, on the backside of it. So, I just, for, all intents and purposes, became a new kind of a player, and with a new attitude, and played to give glory to God. And God gave me my job back a couple weeks later, and went on and took the Falcons to the playoffs the first time in franchise history in 1978, and just had a great run. I mean, I played 9 more years on a knee that, the doc told me. I said, Doc, what's the prognosis? He said, save your money. You're not long for this game, which was good. That's
good advice.
Yeah.
Regardless of how your knees are,
exactly,
it's good advice.
Exactly. Yeah. No matter what your health is, that's a good. Because, the average career is like 3.5 years,
Is that right?
Yeah, in the National Football League. It sure is. Yeah, it's a revolving door. They're always looking for somebody that'll do it, that is bigger, stronger, and faster, and will do it for less money, right? That's kind of that's how the process is. So anyway, having that renaissance or that reborn attitude, just it changed the way I dealt with my teammates. I considered their interests above mine, and just wanted to be a good teammate, wanted to be a good brother, I wanted to be there for them. And I think I think our teams really kind of grew together, after that, because we did have a great nucleus of guys who really felt the same way, sort of a selflessness, just that we're all in this together. Let's pitch in and do what we can to make it work,
Do you think that ever could have happened in baseball?
Yeah, I think it could have. But, again, baseball there's so much individualism in baseball, It's so much about my stats,
You might have been trading that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it could have been, sure enough. I think I hadn't really thought about that until you just asked me that. But I think I think, you miss some of that team camaraderie, that, hey, we're in this, we're all pulling on the same rope,
Yeah. I think it's so important to have both experiences, right? I really think that, especially as you're developing, you should get involved in activities where it all comes down to you, because there's going to be times where you're all on your own and you need to be able to act like that. But there's also tasks that you come up against that you can't get done on your own. And if you're just a lone wolf and that's the only way you function, then you're going to have a really hard time when you come up against a task that needs many hands.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to work in a team as well. And, those are just important life skills.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If I see on a resume that somebody was a wrestler, okay, I know that guy can work on his own really well. He's got some discipline, he's got accountability,
right. He's
got problem solving. If I see that they played baseball and football, it's like, okay, he can work on a team too. Mm-hmm. This is a dynamic individual that I can put in lots of situations.
Well, we talked about special forces. I mean, that's what those teams are all about, right?
They're a unit. They've got to work together.
And there's strengths and weaknesses in each one of them. And trying to bring out the best of again, it's a little chemistry experiment. You want the elements that work together, not work against.
Yeah.
And that's what I think they do a great job of sorting through that. And getting the right teams put together,
SEAL teams in particular, I think, do a good job of that. And a lot of the guys that I've talked to who were involved in those selection processes, they look at how well somebody's going to be able to work in a team much more closely than how they look at somebody's individual performance capabilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's we say it all the time. There's no I in team, right? But there is a me there, and there is an element that it makes you indispensable, on that particular team.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you work to find that great concoction, if you will, group of guys together, with melding attitudes. I mean, and a true brotherly love for each other. I mean, really considering the other guy's interest above your own.
Right.
And it's a self-denial, sort of a deal. Where you just say, look, I want you to grow. I want you to be successful. I want you to achieve your goals. And when you have that common goal of whether it's winning a ball game or accomplishing a mission, whatever it might be, and you've pitched in. At the end of the day, man, you all raise the flag together,
Yeah.
And that to me is that is worth so much more than any compensation that you can possibly get. It's that the money comes and goes, right? And as it relates to winning the championship or whatever. But the interaction, the drive, it's the journey. The journey with your brothers is what you remember the most. And that to me was the element that I so cherish. We got on a roll in 1980 where we had a chance to become a really good football team. And won 9 games in the middle of the season, went into the playoffs as a home field advantage and a whole 9 yards. And just what a letdown it was to not close the deal. And
what happened?
Well, we played the way that we played all year long. We get in front of people, get on top of them, and we would just beat the heck out of them with the ground game, And we tried that against Dallas, and in the playoffs we had home field advantage. We could have scored every time we had the football, I mean, it was one of those games where we just had their number. They couldn't cover our guys, and they made a little bit of a comeback. I think we got up like 21-7 or something like that, 21-10. And we could have honestly just pile drived them, And I went to the coach, midway through the third quarter, and I said, Coach, let's go score some more points. He said, nah, we got this one, like that, And I just, that's a terrible feeling that I had, I mean, that came over me. And you can, in the middle of a game, you can feel there's several different plays. There's probably 5 plays in a football game that affect the outcome. You never know when they're going to happen, but there's probably about 5 plays, 3 to 5, that are going to determine momentum. And momentum is when you get 53 guys on both sides of the field, and man, you get it going, man, you get that feeling of, boy, that we're invincible. We're going to make this happen, and then, somebody drops the ball or, you feel it switch and there's nothing you can do about it. The other team gets it. And, that's what happens every week in the National Football League. It's how do you sway the momentum? How do you learn how to ride it when it's on you, and how do you defeat it when it's against you, And I could feel it change, in the middle of that third quarter. And they came back and beat us. They threw kind of a little bit of a Hail Mary pass, and DB got turned around, and Drew Pearson caught a touchdown and beat us. So, those are the things I live with, boy, I would love a mulligan on that one. Give me one do-over.
Yeah. Yeah. That momentum thing, the initiative, is how it's referred to in the military. It is so critical, and it is palpable certainly after it changes, but you can also feel it starting.
Oh yeah.
And it can oftentimes be too late at that point. Like if you can feel that momentum slowing, and there's a little bit of chaos and uncertainty, and people stop making decisions as quickly, and it's like, oh no, it's just falling apart.
It's contagious.
Yeah,
it's contagious. It's a COVID inside the team.
Yeah, and it's so vulnerable too that if depending on your opponent, if they recognize that it's happening, oh, you're so vulnerable at that point.
No doubt. No doubt.
But if they don't recognize it, that's your only chance you've got to get it back.
Yep.
But it doesn't last for very long, does it?
No.
Yeah.
No, only as long as you're willing to, to beat the horse and make him get across the finish line. It's kind of what you got to do. You just got to drive. You got to, you can't lose. You can't lose what got you there. And if you do that, everybody's trying to take it away from you. They're trying to do that, and you know that going in. I mean, that's the way team sports is. So. At the end of the day, it's the ones who ride it the longest that end up, hoisting the flag,
How old were you when you stopped playing in the NFL?
I was 33.
33
years old, yeah.
Was that a difficult transition?
Oh, yeah. It's terrible.
Did you feel a loss of purpose?
Oh, man. Here's what it's like. Standing in the tunnel with those guys before the game, before the announcement, as you run on the field, there's an adrenaline rush that you can't find anywhere else in life. It's like having these guys that are flying the F-32 Raptors, or F-16s, or it's like those guys when all of a sudden they get a little bit of vision loss, or they've lost their ability to do what they've been trained to do. Fighter pilots, and they tell them they got to go fly Delta jets.
Yeah.
I mean. I don't want to fly a Delta jet.
Right.
I don't, you can't find that,
I mean, I have a very close friend who flew Black Hawk missions for special forces all over Afghanistan and Iraq, and then did follow-on stuff as a contractor, and he's flying for SkyWest right now, and
killing him. Killing him. Straight level. Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, he enjoys the immensity of the aircraft. He enjoys the responsibility of taking care of a bunch of human lives, but the flying is not the same.
The thrill is gone.
It's not the same.
No.
Yeah.
It really is. You can't find it. And that's why I think a lot of the guys go a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of marriages don't make it. I mean, it's like the divorce rate's like 50%. Guys that. Have played in the game, in football, and they it's like the wife kind of gets, used to a certain, agenda, if you will, and lifestyle, and that and the guys get depressed and they get down. They can't find that other thing, that they're looking for, and they won't. The truth is, you have to adapt. You have to evolve. You have to. For me, hunting and fishing was my thing.
You became one of the pioneers in outdoor media in hunting shows. Tell me about that.
Oh, it was, it was something that just happened. My neighbor, he came to me one day and he said, "Bart, you're 35 years old, 36 years old, man. What are you going to do for the rest of your life?" And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, "Well, I thought I would just play golf and, mess around and, go hunting, fishing, things I dreamed about doing, I mean, I finally got a fall, I don't have to go play football, And so anyway, he said, "You like to hunt and fish. Why don't you start a show?" And I said, "Well, how would I do that? I don't know how to do that, He said, "Well, I know a producer, and, I think you might be interested in talking to you." So, we put the program together, called Suzuki Great Outdoors, and I did that, did 3 seasons of that, 26 episodes, which I would not do again. 13 would be perfect,
26 per year?
26 a year for the first 3 years.
That's a lot of travel.
Yeah, a lot of travel. I mean, it became my hobby became a job.
Yeah.
And I was missing some of the kids' stuff as they were growing up. I got 2 boys that are a couple and a half years apart, and I was having to go do a show, and it just felt like drudgery almost. It took what I love to do and sort of made it feel like work.
So is this 1986-ish?
This is more mid '90s.
Into the '90s.
Yeah, on up into the mid '90s. I did 3 years with Suzuki Great Outdoors, and then did one called Backroad Adventures with Bass Pro Shops and Johnny Morris, and did 13 episodes for 4 years there, I think. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Now, I mean, I had a chance to, going back, Suzuki Great Outdoor had a great run because I had guys like Dick Butkus and Burt Jones and Will Clark and, these guys, they, finally got to the place where, I only had to do like 6 or 8, 7 shows a year, and those guys would take, 6 or 7. And so, they had a good long run. But, we were one of the first hunting shows, to really ramp it up, after American Sportsman, and kind of celebrity guests and that. I grew up watching that. And, man, Kurt Gowdy's got the greatest life in the world, having his buddies and friends come on, celebrity guys. And so we did that on that theme, and had a pretty successful run,
Did you start out with bow hunting, or did that come later?
I started out with it. I was just a little kid growing up in Iowa, and at 8 years old, and I had a little stick and string, and there wasn't a rabbit on the place that hadn't been shot at, or a squirrel for that matter, sticking arrows in trees and stuff.
It's a great way to learn.
Oh yeah, I loved it. We had hay bales in the backyard, and I shot all the time, when I was a kid.
And now you've got a tremendous opportunity being on this place and operating a fly fishing lodge.
Yeah. It's
tell me
fun.
about that.
Well, I'm not the operator. I'm just kind of hired help.
Okay, all right.
Pete, my son, is well, it was just it was just out of heaven. It just kind of dropped on Pete, Jim, who he just had an affinity for Pete, and he had this lodge, and it wasn't kind of going the way that he really wanted to see it go, and Pete was a guide here. He'd moved to Montana. He loved the outfitting idea, and Jim pitched it to him, and he said he was working with the Gallatin Timber Rights guys over in Four Corners, and he did that during the winter, and the guys that he was working with were guides during the summer, fishing guides. So that's kind of where he got the bug. Bought a boat. Next thing I know, Pete's got an opportunity with Ruby Drake Lodge, and it's been fun. It's been fun to help him. It's just get something established that I know that he loves. He's passionate about it, and it's been, cool. Yeah, I used to have to – I did 20 years of business development for a general contracting firm called DPR Construction. So I had to go visit guys all over – I'm all over the country, is a big international builder and doing business development for them. I had to go see them. Now they come and see me,
Yeah, good.
And they come – faithfully, almost every year. DPR's got 4, 5, 6 groups that they bring out. So
good.
Yeah, it's been great fun. I kind of feel like I'm still working for DPR.
Yeah,
entertaining customers and friends.
Well, tell me about the lodge and about the fishing.
Well, the lodge is it's a little 10-bed lodge. That's our max. That's all we really want. It's more than we can almost say grace over anyway. But it's fun. It lays out well for corporate trips and that sort of thing, So, it's the fishing here. We're in the epicenter of the fly fishing world here. It's just, there's 5 world-class rivers that we can, get to within an hour, and it's just been phenomenal. It's just been so much fun. I've got a passion for fly fishing, always have, but this has just expanded that, and deepened the passion. I fish pretty much every day when they're eating, I'm a little more picky now that I live here,
Sure.
The last 10 years. But we sort of figured out that, between the Ruby, the Beaverhead, the Big Hole, the Jefferson, and the Madison, that we're in a pretty good spot right here.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, wonderful people. Love Twin Bridges. Feel like we're a part of the community now. And of course, I'm got a chance to spend some time with my best friend, Mr. Kennedy. So it's been fun from that aspect too. We're both playing more golf than we probably ever have.
Good. Who won this morning?
Well, I got the smoothie. Let's put it that
way. Well, we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. I went to college down the road here in Dillon with Kyle.
Yeah,
and
I know you did.
I tell people that I went to college in Dillon, Montana, and they say, "Oh, what's in Dillon?" I say, "It's the trout fishing capital of the universe."
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. It is. No question about it. I just. I longed for this day,
Sure.
For 40 years I tried to figure out how in the world we could make this work. And then this whole thing with Pete and, Jim's benevolence, here with us has just been a wonderful miracle. You know, I mean, it's almost a miracle, just we're so grateful and so thankful. It's such a big part of our lives. And, when you see your kids prospering and doing what they love to do, I mean, as a parent, that's all you really care about.
Yeah. Well, look, you're a first round draft pick. You're a Hall of Fame NFL quarterback. You're a humble guy. Obviously, there's things that you would go back and change about the way that you went through this. What advice would you give to that freshman in high school out there who's showing promise in their sport and think that it might become a profession? Like I feel like that's probably a decent time for them to start thinking about this stuff. And what advice would you give to athletes who are farther along the way, to avoid mistakes that maybe you made or that you saw people make?
Well, I mean, I can probably sum it up. I mean, that's a great question. It's sort of a two-part question. Number one is, I think there needs to be effort needs to come from a thankful heart. I mean, I think that when you realize that you've been blessed from a talent standpoint, given a great toolbox to work from, I think then you owe to the Creator, the one who gave you that skill set, to do the best you can and sharpen it in every tool. I mean, get good with a hammer, get good with a chisel, get good with a screwdriver. I mean, and if you can throw the ball, get good at that. If you can hit the ball, get good at that. And there's no easy road, man. I mean, you gotta go all in. I wish I'd have gone all in on either football or baseball, instead of trying to do both. But I look back and I say, that's the thing that kept me in school. That's the thing that kept me interested in staying, eligible. But I think that effort comes from a thankful heart, and it comes from a grateful attitude. And whatever it is. I mean, there's so many ways for kids to be successful these days. I mean, if maybe you're not an athlete, I mean, but there are some skill sets that people can acquire and make a fine living doing them and feel like you're really adding to society. I mean, I think about how the trades in this little valley, I mean, just become an electrician, become a plumber,
Absolutely.
I mean, there's such need right now, for these.
And whatever you are, be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Apply yourself from a thankful heart, saying, look, God gave me the skill set to do this, I'm gonna do the best I can with what He's given me. And that's all you can ever really ask. I mean, there are games when I know I didn't play very well, and I look at myself in the mirror and say, I try to do self-analysis, and get to the bottom of what kept me from. And most of the time, it's not really necessarily something physical. It could have been a mental block that I needed to get through.
Oh, almost always.
Over.
Yeah. I mean, the physical ability of top athletes is relatively consistent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're within.
They're all built to succeed.
They're within a percentage point of each other.
Yeah.
Their mental ability and consistency with that, and maybe how that goes into work ethic and stuff like that, that's what separates them a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you see that a lot on the golf course, man. I mean, you're watching guys like Scotty Scheffler, that just own the PGA Tour now, and anybody gets close to him, it's like they're going to make a mistake, and he beats them mentally. I mean, he's got as good or as it has better than most talent,
Mm-hmm.
But what he has, man, is he just, I mean, that ball obeys him, I mean, it's like he can make that shot when he needs to, when he can put out the fire. If a guy's chasing him down, I mean, it's like he just consistently keeps hitting fairways, putting on the green, makes his share of putts. You got to come and get him, I mean, he ain't going to come back.
That's momentum.
There's no back. Yeah, there's no back off.
He's got the initiative.
Absolutely.
Right. So other people are trying to take that away from him.
Yeah. Well, and it's great. I mean, he's raised the bar. He's the new Tiger Woods, and I mean, that says a lot right there. I mean, I didn't think anybody would ever. When you won, I think somebody said he won 40 out of 42 junior events that he played in. 40 out of 42.
Yeah.
I mean, now there's a guy that's just got no backup in him,
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know him personally. My wife does a little gig for the Masters every year, and she's filmed, she's done him, photographed him and his family, and she just said there's something different about him. I think he looks like a grateful guy. I think what his talent comes from a grateful heart, from the right attitude. And he just seems like a down-to-earth guy that is humble and really is grateful for the gifts God given him.
There's a couple different performance psychologists that I really like, and I consult with them on a regular basis whenever I'm trying to explain a performance problem, whether it's in hunting or shooting or some other thing. And a conversation I had with Dr. Lindsay Byra recently was a lot of what you're saying here. She recommended that for people who are having target panic or buck fever, right? Like this is a common thing, that they, instead of focusing on the outcome, that they focus on the process and remain curious about it, and also find the thing that's greater than themselves. If they're trying to make the result to achieve the thing for themselves, their performance will never get to the level that it could if they're trying to do it for somebody else.
Right.
So what I've been trying to talk with people about with buck fever and bull fever is think about who you're doing this for. And if it's for yourself, maybe reevaluate that.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to make this shot so that you can bring back meat for your family, that will put you on firmer ground than if you try and make it for yourself.
I get it. Yeah. That makes sense to me.
It's the same thing that you're talking about, just put in different terms.
Right.
I bet you would find a lot of top performers who feel the same way that you do. Yeah. Incredible stuff. What's your hunting season going to look like this year?
Well, I never really do know until until we get going. But
did you draw any tags in Montana?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you get resident. I can buy tags here. So
okay, so you didn't apply for any special draws?
No, I didn't. No draw. We been fortunate enough to get access to some pretty good land over there in Paradise Valley that Arthur Blank owns. Arthur's owner of the Falcons and a great friend of mine, and he's been kind enough to let Pete and I and his brother, actually, Phil, my older son. He's up here this summer serving as a chef. He and his wife Robin, who you met on the way out.
Yeah. Good.
They're kind of cooking for the lodge this year and kind of getting indoctrinated to because I'm hoping that they'll be up here one day with us as well. But he drew a tag, an elk tag. So
good.
Yeah. So we're going to do that in probably mid-September, and we get to go to Pete and I get a chance to come up to Jim's place in Oregon and try to shoot us a cow elk and put it in the freezer and serve it to all our friends when they come visit us and at the lodge. So that'll be fun, and I'm sure we'll get some duck hunting in and things like that when that happens at the end of September. So
good. Well, I look forward to seeing you out there in Oregon. I don't know my schedule yet, but more than likely I'll be out there when you and Pete are coming out to hunt. And
hope so.
Yeah. Show up shooting good.
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
We're take all those same lessons that made you a good performer in football and all of your experience in hunting and make it count.
Promise I'll do that.
Yeah, awesome. How's your shoulders? How's your elbows? You drawing your bow all right?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
Good.
I'm fine. Yeah, I don't draw the weight I used to. Yeah. I used to shoot 100 pounds.
Draw weight's a little bit overrated. There was a long time that I shot 80, 84 pounds, and that the math just doesn't make sense anymore with the way these bows work. If I was to hunt something like Cape Buffalo, elephant, something really giant, I would plus up my poundage a little bit because I would also add arrow weight. But I've found arrow weight to be the great equalizer, and that's just made all the difference.
Yeah. No, I think that kind of runs true from Kyle and Jim and everybody that I've talked to as well. You know,
we're all
the heavier the arrow, the better. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, there's a sweet spot for sure. Probably a little bit like offensive linemen, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You better. Yeah. You want them stout, but you want them also nimble.
Yeah. Yeah. I was watching some sumo wrestlers the other day. And, they're so explosive. They've got just incredible power in this short burst. And there was a guy that was outweighed by a couple 100 pounds who was beating these fellas. And I asked several people, like, how come we don't ever see sumo players in the NFL? Yeah. And it's like, because they only do that once.
Yeah, exactly.
They only do that once a night.
Once for 3 seconds,
Yeah. Yeah.
I always thought they'd make great goalies, because they are so wide, I mean, they're just big-bodied rascals, and they're pretty nimble, like you said, for, that short little period.
Yeah, but, goalie needs a quick eye.
Oh, man, give me a 600-pound slug in front of that net.
Yeah.
And give you a little crack to put that puck through.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, man,
you have an incredible story, and you really did lead the way in hunting media when it was just the absolute Wild West, and I think it's pretty cool. It's become its own thing.
Yeah, it's been fun. Outdoors is a big part of my life, and I love it, and I thank God for it. I'm grateful that we live in a country that we can do this.
Cool. Well, we'll see you this fall.
All right, buddy. Sounds
Cheers.
Good. Bye.
Thank you to everyone who has taken the time out of their busy lives to write a review for the show and share it with their friends. I'm extremely proud of how intelligent, engaged, and adventurous this audience is. Original music for the Six Ranch podcast is written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Harlander. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.